Fantasy's building turrets all over the place here. He's being super careful. He knows that there are reavers on the way, and he does not want to lose all of his SCVs to this. And he's throwing his whole army into the main right now, so I think he knows that Bisu is going to try to go into the main. And his natural is completely protected as well, so Fantasy actually has great defense here against reaver harassment. We'll see what Bisu decides to do once he sees all of the turrets and all of the marines in here. I don't think he's going to get much done unless he drops the reavers way to the side, like right here. He throws in his zealot, trying to take the damage there. Unfortunately, the zealot goes down, so Bisu probably has one more zealot in there. Maybe not. He doesn't get much done with that reaver. He picks at the supply depot and picks at the tank, but I think that tank is being repaired actually by Fantasy, so Fantasy is definitely bringing his A game today. I know I say that a lot, but I'm medicated, so forgive me. And Bisu's coming down here with his reaver. I think he's going to try to inch his reaver forward while he's putting up his fleet beacon. So this is 2 base carriers from Bisu, putting down another Stargate there as well. So, wow, he's going to pump carriers from 2 Stargates. And this is very, very soon to do this, too. He doesn't have his 3rd base. I think he just got his 2nd base up and running. And I'm not sure if Fantasy is going to be prepared for this. He's probably building his armory right now if he doesn't have it already. So he's going to need that armory for his upgrades for his tanks and such. And, well, Bisu's job here is going to keep that build from being scouted, but he could have built it behind his main, I think. That's kind of a weird place to put it, since Fantasy will probably scan the main at some point. He's going to probably know about that build coming, and once he knows about the build, he'll be able to build a lot of Goliaths to deal with it once he has his armory up. So this might not be the best idea in the world for BC to do, but we'll see what he can do with his carriers from 2 bases. And he is going to try to take his 3rd base soon, so this might end up actually working for Bisu if he can just keep those Stargates from being scouted long enough. I'm not sure how many scans that Fantasy has up right now. He's working on his 2nd scan here, so I think he's going to use that soon to scan the Stargates here from Bisu. I'm just not sure about the Stargate placement from Bisu. One of the good things about Chupung-Ryeong, and one of the reasons that it can give Protoss an advantage, is there's a huge gap of land behind the main that you could go down there and just throw down a pylon and throw down the Stargates down there. We'll see if Fantasy knows about this or not. They are showing the first-person perspective of Fantasy, probably going to try to see if he is scouted or not. Fantasy's throwing down another armory, so he's getting heavy upgrades for his tanks and his marines here. So, who knows? Fantasy may have scouted those Stargates already. Fantasy's building turrets over here. He's trying to take the middle, which is always good to do in TVP. And Bisu, in the meantime, I think he's still trying to take that 3rd base down there at the 5 o'clock. He has his shuttle flying around with reavers, and now Fantasy's trying to sneak by here. I don't think it's going to be too successful. Bisu has a lot of troops around here. So Fantasy's probably going to get a few probe kills and then be just fended off by this large Dragoon force from Bisu. A few probe kills there. So, Goliaths are out now for Fantasy, so I think Fantasy has scouted the Stargates, so this is not good for Bisu. Bisu, I'm not sure what he could do at this point. He's only running off of 2 bases, so he's going to be spending a lot of resources on those carriers. And he's still trying to take that 3rd base. He still hasn't plopped down the Nexus yet. And he only has 2 carriers out, and Fantasy is already pumping Goliath, so Fantasy, I think, definitely scouted that build. And Bisu losing a Dragoon there to mines. And now Bisu's coming up with a shuttle in 2 carriers. I just don't think this is the best option for Bisu right now. Bisu being picked off here from behind by Vulture Harass here from Fantasy. I think Fantasy scanned to do that Vulture Harass. And Bisu revealing his carriers now. He has only 2 carriers right now. So he's choosing to reveal them early. But I think Fantasy knew about it anyway. He had a ton of Goliaths out there. And now, wow, that's a lot of Goliaths. Fantasy definitely scouted this build extremely early. And I don't think these carriers are going to get anything done. The carriers were able to pick off a couple of SCVs there. The Reaver going down. And Fantasy, look at all these Goliaths. Man. So, wow. I think Bisu might actually lose this. Bisu is still only working off of 2 bases. In Fantasy, he has an awfully large army pushing down the map right now. The only thing, well, the one way I see Bisu getting back in this match is if he can use his ground army effectively with his carriers at the same time. But wow, Fantasy is just amassing troops. He has a ton of tanks now. And he's going to be able to throw in his SCVs, build turrets around those tanks, and keep the sellout bombs from happening. Well, he won't even need to do that, really, with all these Goliaths around. And the Goliaths are picking off the interceptors. And Bisu has stopped carrier production. And Bisu, I think Bisu's in huge trouble here. He's running out of minerals at his main. He has a few carriers going around there. Well, he has his ground army in here, and he's throwing his ground army up the map right now. Probably going to try to do some kind of pincer attack here, but Fantasy's coming in with all of his Goliaths. He might be able to pick off this carrier. Carrier goes down, so Bisu, man, he has 3 carriers right now that I see. And he has a pretty substantial ground force, but if he gets within range of those tanks, it's going to be over. Fantasy's bringing up his tanks. He's sieging, so this is going to look bad for Bisu if he can't get out of here. Oh, man. Bisu losing every one of his Dragoons, and the Goliaths retreating now to mop up this force from Bisu. Bisu's in terrible position right now, and I think Fantasy's going to take game 1. Fantasy is barely down the map right now with what he has. Only 3 carriers left for Bisu. I'm not sure why Bisu went for such an all-in build off of 2 bases, carriers from 2 bases. I just don't see why he went for that. But he's going in here anyway with his carriers, interceptors being picked off. Fantasy's coming in here. There's almost no interceptors left. GG from Bisu. Bisu's first loss since the wild card. And it looks like he will not get the record for the most consecutive wins after all. So wow, Fantasy shutting down Bisu with great style there. This is really going to be an interesting matchup because Fantasy, he was 1 step ahead of Bisu the entire time. He knew what Bisu was going to do, and he just stopped it from happening each and every time. And he just got Goliath out before the carriers came out and got a really easy win there, I have to say. Bisu did not put up that much of a fight. So who knows? Fantasy might actually be able to stop Bisu's chances of becoming the next Bonjwa. I would not have predicted this, but I'm moving on to the second set.